Very first tech IPO, and it's a big one. Our colleague Rebecca Jarvis is down on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange in the middle of where all the action is going to be today to tell you everything you need to know about how to get a piece of Snapchat. Rebecca, it's a big day down there. Tell me what's going on and what we need to know about today's IPO.
A big day. Yes, and you can hear the cheering behind me because the bell here at the New York Stock Exchange is about to open. This is the place where Snapchat, you see all the signage here, this is the place right here where Snapchat will eventually begin trading for the first time in its history. A company that began 5 years ago and now is worth $1 billion. You can hear the bell ringing. This is the opening bell. The person doing the bell ringing is the co-founder and CEO of Snapchat, Evan Spiegel. Can you see that, Amna? I want to make sure
we absolutely can. We see them up there. I think it's Evan Spiegel. I think the CTO is up there as well. Bobby Murphy, another gentleman as well. They are cheering and pumping their arms. They have a lot of reasons to be happy today, right, Rebecca?
Yeah, well, they're billionaires today. These are people, Evan Spiegel, for a 26-year-old who is dating Miranda Kerr, now is CEO at 26 years old. This is a product that he created as a student at Stanford. It is used by 161 million people a day. And this is a huge IPO. This is one of the biggest tech IPOs that we've seen in a long time. A lot of people are drawing comparisons now to Facebook and Twitter. The question is, which one is Snapchat going to be? That's the question going forward. Is it going to be more like Facebook, which since its IPO is up more than 260%? Or is it going to be more like Twitter, which since its IPO is down 68%, Amna?
Yeah. Now, Rebecca, we know they set the share prices at $17, right? They're going to raise potentially billions today. How will we know, when will we know, rather, how the stock is performing when it comes to an IPO? How long does it take before we can evaluate?
So typically speaking, IPOs, they don't open when the rest of the stock market opens. So the market here at the New York Stock Exchange, Monday through Friday, opens at 9:30. That's when stocks open here at the New York Stock Exchange. With an IPO, it takes a little bit longer for that company to start trading. And the reason is, you see this sea of people behind me? They are all trying to figure out orders right now for the stock. They're all putting together orders. They're putting together buyers and making sure that at the moment that all of that sort of chaos and confusion is worked out, that's when the company actually starts trading. We've seen it happen as late in the day as 11:30. Closer to noon is probably when we'll start actually seeing this company trade. And you mentioned the price. So companies start out at a price. $17 is where Snapchat priced last night. That's essentially the amount that banks and inside buyers are willing to pay to own the stock. But that price can get pushed up by interest, by a lot of people wanting to own the stock. And I'm hearing that we might see the price get pushed up as high as $18.50 before it starts trading this morning, before around 11 o'clock when we see it trading. I think the bottom line here, and you asked this at the top of the conversation, how can the average person get in? Well, I'm not going to say that you should go out and buy Snapchat. And by the way, I am only a financial journalist. I am not a financial planner. I am not certified. I'm not giving people investment advice. But historically speaking, IPOs tend to be very volatile. On day 1, day 2, day 3, they tend to be very volatile. And for people out there who are thinking about their money and setting aside money for retirement, the best strategy, it's the one that has historically worked the best and paid off the most, is the long-term thinking. It's buying an S&P 500 index fund. It's putting your money into your company's 401k, into an IRA, and letting it sit there and earn money over time. Because there are peaks and valleys always in the stock market and in individual stocks. And over time, the strategy that pays off for the average person is to put it into that IRA, Roth IRA, and your 401k. Let it sit there.
So here's the other thing, Rebecca, for people who are looking at Snap. It's not just about how the company does today. Positioning themselves for an IPO at this point in time, it sort of sets the tone for the rest of the tech market, right? A lot of people are going to be looking to see how much appetite is there for other tech firms.
Right. So there are a number of big tech companies right now that are watching this. Uber, Airbnb, Spotify. These are all companies that are not yet public, that are around the same point in their genesis and where in their creation story, that are around the same point as Snapchat. And they're watching this today to see how the market responds, because they too have interest in going public. And if the market responds positively, that will very likely clear the way for other tech IPOs to start happening. I have to say, in the backdrop of all of this, they couldn't ask for a better underlying stock market to go public in, with the Dow yesterday hitting that 21,000 milestone, surpassing it for the first time ever, and stocks already this year up more than 5%. It's certainly a positive environment in which to go public. It's when you're a public company and you're going public, rather, when you want to go public as a company, it's a good environment. You want that euphoria, you want that optimism. There's nothing worse than trying to become a public company in an environment that's pessimistic, because it's bad for the stock, whether the stock is good or bad.
Rebecca, one of the things I was hoping you could shed some light on, that the nature of this IPO is that they're selling non-voting shares, which is a little bit unusual, right? Which means people can buy shares basically saying, we trust this company's going to grow, but we're not going to have a say in its direction.
Right. So traditionally speaking, if you are a shareholder in a company, you can vote on choices that the company makes and have a say. In this case, you don't have those rights. And Snapchat is basically saying, if you help us by buying our stock, you don't get to have a say in what we do going forward.
So here's the other thing that fascinates me about tech IPOs in particular. The whole market seems to be built on experimentation and being able to remain nimble and responsive to the market and your users' needs. When you go public, you are suddenly kind of constraining yourself, right? There's a whole new set of regulations and rules that Evan Spiegel and Bobby Murphy and the leadership now have to adhere to. So how are people looking at that when they're evaluating the company?
This company, Snapchat in particular, and I would say really all tech companies, are notoriously secretive. And when you're a private company, you don't have any public shareholders, you can be notoriously secretive. Once you're a public company, you have to start producing results. You have to share with the world something called a 10Q. That basically means you're telling the world exactly how your finances are and exactly how many users you're adding and what things are working in the business and what things are not working in the business. That can add a layer of risk. And somebody might say, well, then why would you go public in the first place? It's actually a question that a lot of companies ask themselves. Do we really want to? Ultimately, the reason that Snapchat is going public, I would say, is twofold. First off, there's the investors who are hoping to get something for their position. The people who started out in Snapchat in the very early days probably were around when Snapchat turned down the $3 billion offer from Facebook a few years back, and they are hoping to get something for that. They're hoping to get a return on that investment. There is the reason that's also there for companies that want to go public, and that is they need to raise money so that they can do something with that money. In this IPO, Snapchat raises about $3.4 billion, and they will use that money to invest in the company's future to try to make the company grow. But the bottom line here, Amna, and you pointed it out, we're going to know more about this company now than we ever did before because they are public. And one thing we learned through the company when they released their intent to go public is that in the last year, between 2015 and 2016, their revenues, their sales rose 600% to more than $400 million. But ultimately, even after they made $400 million sales, they lost $515 million overall. The big thing for this company going forward is, can they start to actually make money? Can they start to show profits? Wall Street will want to see that this company is earning something eventually. But they also have 161 million users, and that's very valuable, too, in the eyes of Wall Street.
Right. So the question is now, can they monetize those users somehow?
Exactly.
Can they turn them into money? They've also, I noted their advertising business grew enormously between 2015 and 2016, which when it comes to content companies is something a lot of people look at. But these guys, interestingly, build themselves as a camera company, right? They are so much more. They do social media and content, but they're deliberately saying, no, we're a camera company, and we'll build off that.
Yes, this is something I talked to Kara Swisher about, who runs Recode, very famous journalist in Silicon Valley. And she basically said, look, they can call themselves whatever they want to call themselves. Maybe they're calling themselves a camera company because they want to differentiate. They don't want to be the social network, which is what Facebook was considered when they went public. But also I think this has to do with how the product is used. Anybody who uses Snapchat, and I'm a big fan of using Snapchat. I know, Amna, you're familiar with Snapchat as well. When you open up Snapchat, the first thing you see is that camera button. It's right. That little round button in the middle of the screen. The things that this company will likely do in the future with cameras involve augmented reality, potentially virtual reality. So I think that that's why they're calling themselves a company right now, but because if you think about all the filters and all the things that you do with Snapchat right now, it's all because of the camera that you're able to do those things.
That's so true. That is so true. We're going to follow you for the rest of the day to see how this goes on. Rebecca Jarvis, follow her on Twitter, you guys, and of course her reporting right here at ABC. And Rebecca, you've got a big interview coming up as well, right?
Yes, the New York Times. Explain all this activity behind me and the behind the scenes of what's going on right now with the Snapchat IPO as the company gets ready to trade as a public company for the first time.
Big day down there on the stock exchange. Rebecca Jarvis is covering it all for ABC News. Thanks to her. Thanks to you for watching. Stay right here for the latest live streams happening around the world and right here. For all of us here right now, I'm Amna Nawaz.